All right, good morning. Madam Chair, it looks like we have feedback issues here.
Hi, Daniel. Tom Sullivan. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with my microphone, but yeah, Madam Chair, it looks like we do have quorum. So if you want to start the officially start.
Good morning, everyone.
I was muted. Okay, officially calling today, February 6th, Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee meeting to order. Dan, can you call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Anderson?
Here.
Ms. Flaherty?
Here.
Mr. Frendorf? Ms. Land?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Persons?
Here.
Mr. Talley? Mr. Trebisano?
Here.
And Ms. Marinucci. Madam Chair, we do have a quorum, and we do have one item on the agenda. Before we get to that, I can go through our preamble real quick, and we can get to the agenda. So this is the February 6th, 2025 meeting of the Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee. Actions during the meeting will be taken by roll call vote. Recusal due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the start of any presentation. When the recused committee member will leave the meeting for the duration of the case discussion. The chair will call the meeting to order and ask for roll call of the committee, which has just happened. Then the administrator will introduce the first project. The meeting will then be turned over to the applicant to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the committee. Once the presentation is concluded, the administrator will provide background information and read any received public comment when applicable. The committee will then begin deliberations and project review. Please use the raised hand feature if you'd like to speak. After deliberations and review concludes, the committee will render its recommendation and or motion. The applicant may leave the meeting at any point after their project review is complete. All projects will follow the same format until all projects are heard by the committee. Once all projects are heard, the chair will call for any committee/administrator reports. After all reports have been heard, the chair will adjourn the meeting. Regarding community comments, any and all community members may provide their written comments, thoughts, or questions regarding projects presented to the committee. Community members may also telephone their comments or questions to the committee administrator. All comments, thoughts, or questions must be submitted to the committee administrator no later than 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Public comment received after the deadline will not be heard by the committee. Public comment will be collected by Landmark staff and sent to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Landmark staff will summarize any received comments during the meeting. The applicant of the project is under no obligation to answer any community questions. Community members are invited to attend the Design Review Advisory Committee meetings, but there will be no open public comment period. All projects are being reviewed using the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and are being considered for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. All projects are considered on a case-by-case basis. Presentations were received and distributed to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Changes to the presentation after the confirmation of receipt by Landmark staff are not shown in today's presentations. The Historic Ohio City Design Review Advisory Committee makes recommendations to the Cleveland Landmark Commission. Recommendations are not final actions. Depending on the scope of the project, submissions may be approved administratively or will need to be reviewed by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Projects will be scheduled at the next available commission meeting after an action is taken, if that's the route they go on. As I said, that we do have one agenda item here. Case HOC 25-04, 4810 Lorraine Avenue's Commercial Historic District. It's a demolition, and we've actually got we got Kurt Weaver here to present. I think the owner is also here. But we have some drawings for the replacement office. I guess this was all made as one submission, but I guess my recommendation would be that we handle the demolition and the proposed replacement as separate items. Just because I think that, yeah, well, I'll let you guys see the presentation, but I think, Kurt, did you want to start with the proposed replacement, or did you want to start with the existing conditions and the fire damage?
Good morning, everyone. Kurt Weaver, architect. Thank you for hearing our project this morning. Jessica, able to get, oh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. Let's go through that one. That's the PowerPoint that we put together for this meeting. I tried to respond to the demolition criteria that was on the website. So how do we advance the slide?
Just let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Okay, yeah, next, so here we are, we started. Next slide. I don't know if you can all see that better than I can. But what I said was the subject property is located on the northwest corner of Lorraine Avenue and West 48th Street. For those of you that were there with us on Tuesday when we visited the site, we were there at 3 o'clock or thereafter, so you got to see the flavor of what happens on Lorraine around that time with the community urban school as our neighbor across the street. The site contained a nominal 80-foot by 133-foot single-story masonry bearing wall structure of nominally 10,640 square feet. The structure included a structural steel supported mezzanine and steel frame metal roof. The structure was completely destroyed in a fire event that occurred in early December. Tommy, I think we said December 8th. That was a Sunday. And then my map, if you can see that, it's the county map that shows Lorraine and 48th Street, proximate to where my hand is the site. Next page, please. The Cuyahoga County Archive or Cuyahoga County Auditor's website provides the following information. The parcel number is 002-34074. There's actually another parcel, I think it's 075, that's a small sliver of land that exists to the north between this parcel and the residential parcel that's to the north. I think it has like 15 foot of frontage or something. It's equal depth to the residential property. It's a one-story build. The property is owned by 4810 Lorraine LLC, which is actually Tommy's father, correct, Tommy? It's a one-story building that was built in '63 of fire-resistant framing, concrete block. It had a 720 square foot office. Construction class C, usable area 10,480 square feet. It was remodeled in 1971. It had a mezzanine of 3,920 square feet. Forced air heat, slab on grade, average condition, and composition roofing. The photograph I was able to find on the website. I don't know what year, but Tommy, you can tell us how accurate that is relative to conditions pre-event. Next page, please. The 4 photographs on this page are the current images of the property. Clockwise from top left is the south elevation facing Lorraine. The east elevation, which is the long elevation facing West 48th Street. The north elevation, which had the 2 access overhead doors, which is where we were all standing on the site on Tuesday, and where several of the attendees actually accessed the building. And then the last photograph, which is lower left-hand corner is the portion of the west elevation that you see that protrudes beyond the adjacent building, which is to the west. Next slide, please. This slide shows 4 images of the detail of the damage. Again, clockwise from top left, the south elevation, west building facade. The east elevation, the detail in the front where the roof is. The north elevation overhead door, and then the north elevation to the east. Next slide, please. These are the surrounding buildings. To the upper left is the adjacent building to the west. The image to the upper right is across the street on West 48th Street. It has that turret on the Lorraine corner. And then across the street on the bottom from left to right is Metro Health has a facility that is sort of catty corner to the east. Across the street directly is sort of an open field that is part of the urban school, which you see their field house beyond, and then the school itself in the next photograph. Next slide, please. This map, which appears very light on my monitor in front of me, I added the my project number 2444 that we submitted for building permit in early January, and the B number is there. The site plan itself shows the property in total, which is primarily rectangular, but it's got that, angular relationship between Lorraine Avenue as our southern boundary and West 48th Street running on a north-south, primarily a north-south orientation. It goes up the page to the adjacent house, which that adjacent house should have showed up in a photograph someplace on existing conditions. I'm sorry I didn't have it in there. The building itself was perpendicular to Lorraine Avenue and edged on that west property line. It was immediately adjacent to the building that is adjacent to the west. It protruded beyond, and the property line, if I recall correctly, pretty much ran that little leg that is a northern boundary-ish against the adjacent residential unit that is on the West 50th Street frontage. Well, not ours, but the house itself. For those of you that were there on Tuesday, you saw the site. Anybody else, if you have questions, Tommy and I'll be happy to answer. The next plan, next slide, please, is what I called the site preparation selective demolition plan, and what I wrote as salvage plan. Basically, what we know when we take down a masonry building that has steel in it like this, it's going to come apart rather simply. So all that steel is going to be recycled. I'm not sure if they'll do something with the masonry that way, because that's a very popular thing as well these days, for them to be grinding the masonry and for it to be repurposed as backfill or porous fill or some such like that. Perhaps we can work through that as Tommy gets his demolition contractor in place when the time comes. The next slide is the proposed plan, which shows the building removed and a modular office basically in the center of the site, in the nominal center of where the former building was, in the orientation that you see relative to facing Lorraine Avenue frontage. And our location is predicated by where we think the existing subgrade sanitary and water supply from the existing restrooms in the building are nominally local, so that when we go to make our connections, everything sort of makes as much sense and is as efficient for us as possible. Again, on my light site plan, at least what I can't really see the detail, but I know the detail. In terms of the property, when the building is removed, there will be this portion that is that little north leg. There's a little segment of fence area there that needs to be replaced with what is the predominant fencing of the perimeter of the site, which is a nominally 6-foot high white panelized fence that we would then continue from this point on the west property line down and around and to where the building's removed to the adjacent building. There is a dumpster that is located on the property on the northeast corner of the property up on 48th Street, adjacent to the residential neighbor. We will go ahead and enclose that with the white panel fencing. And then the existing 48th Street frontage and a small return on Lorraine, the perimeter was bollards that we will then continue those bollards along the frontage of where the building is removed, so that perimeter is open but consistent with what is there, and defines his perimeter and basically allows the cars to be contained within those bollards. There are 2 curb cuts on the West 48th Street frontage. The north one will be enter only. The south one will be exit only. It will be arrowed and labeled accordingly. And then down along the old perimeter of the east elevation of the building will be our guest parking spots, where they'll be striped and curb stopped. And that's really the extent of it. Tommy, if you wanted to add anything.
Tommy, you're muted if you're.
You have to unmute yourself, Tommy.
I'm sorry. Am I there now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. One thing we did change is made the back entrance there were 2 driveways. One was used for the service department in the back, and one that was used for sales in the front, both on the side of West 48th Street. And what we changed is make one an entrance and one an exit to help alleviate the congestion problem that happens when school starts and when school lets out, mostly, but because of the growth in the neighborhood in the recent years, there's a lot more parking, so problems on the streets. So we want to make sure that we're totally self-contained, that we don't add to that congestion. That's all I have to add.
And Madam Chair, if I may, we did have a site visit on Tuesday. Don't know that everyone was able to make it, so staff did take some photos, so I can just go through those quickly. If everyone would like to see some, I guess, larger format